Good morning, everyone. I don't hear you. You're on mute. Get rid of the Verrazano Bridge.
Now you hear me?
Now I hear you.
Oh, Baruch Hashem. All right, so put the phone over here.
Yeah.
Lean it against this safe, so maybe they can see me.
Oh,
Oh, okay.
now we see you.
Yeah, well, we're working on it.
Okay.
I don't know if you're gonna see me because somebody didn't leave a stender here.
Oh,
All right, you'll have to. I'm not that good looking anyway. Wait, maybe no, but it did something else. I have no idea. I just sat here. All right, learning sponsorships. We gratefully acknowledge the contributions of the following persons who have contributed to the shul in support of learning. Friends of Stephen Vigder, Simcha Melech, Ben Meir Lev Halev. Friends of Marcy Kurtz in memory of her great niece, Leah Bracha Bas Rivka. Isaac and Evelyn Blacher in memory of his sister, Chaya Rachel Bas Iser. Friends of Leonie Meiselman, Leah Sabra Bas Chanach Zundel. 2 months of learning by friends of Milton Meller in honor of his second bar mitzvah, i.e. his 85th birthday. A month of learning by Chaim and Phyllis Reese in memory of his father, Mordechai ben Yom Tov Lipa, and in memory of her father, Pinchas ben Avraham. A month of learning by Isaac and Evelyn Blacher in memory of his mother, Zisel Bas Chaim Yitzchak, by Reuben Zev and Susan Podolsky in memory of his mother, Fredel Bas Shraga Feivel. Rabbi Yankee and Malki Heinig in memory of his sister, Chava Bas Harav Simcha ben Yamin, his brother, Tzvi Aaron Zev ben Harav Simcha ben Yamin, his father, Harav Simcha ben Yamin ben Rav Yosef Yitzchak, and her mother, Sosa Bas Chonya. Day of Learning today by Sylvia Gutis in memory of her husband, Shimon Chaim ben Avraham. Before we pick up today's Gemara, I want to readdress the wedding. So there are a couple of issues. Number one, it may have been the wedding itself, or it may have been a Sheva brachas at which all this went on. Number two, when we read it, I was probably wrong in having a vocal indication of displeasure at Bar Kapara. The situation was as follows. Rebbe was the Nasi. He was always dour and felt heavy burden on him because he's responsible for all of Klal Yisrael. And he's making his son's wedding and he's not getting into the spirit of the thing. And Bar Kapara knew that. So starting even a few days earlier, Bar Kapara did the handwriting on the wall. According to one version, according to another version, he really did forget him. And he made the Sheva Brachas banquet in honor of Bar Kapara and invited him to that. But in any event, Bar Kapara was trying to say to Rebbe, look, for a couple of hours on one occasion, you can lighten up. You can actually enjoy your son Shimon's wedding and, get with the program. And he intentionally clowned around. Now, the indication of that is that Rebbe, they went through 3 rounds of what does this mean? What does this mean? And the 3 rounds of drinking and the 3 rounds of get up and dance. So Rebbe was going along with Bar Kapara's efforts at getting him to lighten up. Meanwhile, the son-in-law, who, I mean, you can picture it in your own mind. Here's this very rich kid married into a royal family. He's like very makpid on propriety, and he couldn't handle the shver getting up and making a fool of himself, kaviyach. So that is sort of the background of the story, and the indicator to that is rather than just simply tell us he's his son-in-law, they told us he was so rich and he spent $1 zillion on grooming. So you get the picture that he was a vain young man who could not handle these older guys having fun at the wedding. So if I had misled anybody, I apologize. We are now on the Mishnah bottom of Nun Aleph. Okay, the very last 2 lines of Nun Aleph. Haneder min hachelef. If an individual makes a vow that he will not consume milk, mutter bekum, he is allowed to utilize whey. Now, milk, when you separate it into the curds and the whey, like little Miss Muffet, so the curds become cheese, and the whey can be used in various other manners as a beverage in cooking. Right. Okay, so the component of milk would be permitted. Similarly, so would cheese. Okay, Rabbi Yossi argues, Rabbi Yossi Oser. Rabbi Yossi, and I know it says Rabbi Yehuda, they Meforshim change it to Rabbi Yossi. Okay, and he forbids the components of milk if he ushers on himself milk. Min hakum, on the other hand, everybody agrees that if you say, I will not drink whey, then you are allowed, mutter b'chalav, you are allowed to drink whole milk. Okay. What? Chalav. Chalav, you're not allowed to eat without a vow. Okay. Abba Shol Omer, Abba Shol says, Haneder min hagavina. What if you make a neder not to eat or utilize cheese? Aser bo ben melucha utefela. The process of making cheese, you separate the curds from the whey. If you're making cheese other than extremely fresh, extremely soft cheese, like a cottage cheese or fresh mozzarella, you have to process it further, which you have to cheddar it and you have to press it. To get more liquid out, and one of the ways of getting more liquid out is you salt it. So you might argue that cottage cheese or mozzarella is the very fresh, isn't really called gavina. So the Mishnah explains to us, Aser bo ben melucha utefela. It doesn't matter whether it's salted or not salted, whether it's very soft cheese or firmer cheese, you're not allowed to eat any of it. Haneder min habasar. If you make a neder to not eat meat, mutter bereita ubekipa, you would still be able to eat the liquid that the meat is cooked in, like a pot roast. You'd be able to eat the gravy as a soup, for example, and you would even be able to eat the small meat particles that are like you scrape from the bottom of the pan, or that are left on the cutting board after you cut up the meat and you scoop that into the gravy. Okay, Rabbi Yossi once again is machmir. Rabbi Yossi oser. Okay, he forbids it. Now this is why we make it Rabbi Yossi over here. Okay, so basically, if you think about it, Rabbi Yossi's objection is that the flavor of the meat is in the gravy, and little meat particles are mamish little meat particles. Nonetheless, the Tanakama allows the person who made such a neder to eat those things. Omer Rabbi Yehuda says, and he tries to back up Rabbi Yossi with an actual psak that occurred. Ma'aser v'oser aleinu Rab Tarfon b'beyim shenisbashlu imay. Rab Tarfon forbade the individual who made a neder not to eat meat. He would not allow him to eat eggs that were boiled, so to speak, in the gravy while the meat was cooking. Again, because it gave no same time. Okay, so that he tries to back up Reb Yossi. So Omer Lo, the other rabbi, said to him, Kain Hadavar, that's absolutely true. He did do that. Amasai, but when did he do that, Reb Tarfon? Bisman Shiomer Basur Ze Olai. When the man said, this piece of meat in this pot, so to speak, is usher to me. So that expands the neder to anything else that might have been in that pot. Sheneider min hadavar nis arev biachar, and that would then include anything else that was mixed into that cooking process. So not only wouldn't you be able to eat the eggs, but you wouldn't be able to eat the carrots and the potatoes cooked in that pot roast. Okay. Im yesh bo b'noising tam asur. If the cooking process was long enough for the other foodstuffs in the same pot to absorb flavor from the meat, that's when Reb Tarfon would say it's usher. So there need not necessarily be a machlokes between Reb Yossi and the Tanakama. I mean, I could imagine like poaching a piece of sole in liquid. If you made an usher on, if you made a neder not to eat the liquid would really flavor the fish wouldn't really flavor the liquid. So you could argue that there are cases where they didn't disagree. Turn the page. What?
I don't know if this is really real case, but it's the fact that it's cooking.
No, it's the fact that it's expanding flavor. Remember, we had kivush. We had pickling. There is no heat involved. But and we had the discussion, can you drink the liquid or with the fish, the brine, in which because the implication there now with this piece of data would be that the pickling affects the herring. The herring doesn't affect the pickle juice. In other words, we're not talking about cooking. We're talking about putting foods in a liquid together with solids. And if the one solid in flavors adds flavor to another solid, or if the liquid adds flavor to the rest of the liquid, and that's subject to a neder, then the additional flavor that is transferred is covered by the neder. It's not necessarily the heat. Cooking it definitionally means applying heat. It's not applying heat. It's transferring flavor.
Yeah,
however it's done, right.
Fish in cold water.
What?
You put the fish in water.
If for more than
hot.
24 hours, that would be kibush.
Oh, 24 hours.
Yeah, under normal circumstances, 24 hours
Otherwise,
is the definition of kibush. Okay. Now, another min hayayim. What if you made a vow that you will not benefit from wine? Okay, mutter b'tashvil sheyesh bo tam yayin. This is almost a contradiction. That if you say, I will not drink wine, you could eat stew that's got wine added to the gravy. Okay, even though the wine affects the flavor of or the taste of the whole thing. Omar, kainem yayin zeh sha'ani toye. Now here we have the word toyem and we have the word zeh, and we're going to have a discussion of which one counts, or if we're both. If you say, I consider this wine for itself and for its taste to be like a korban to me. In other words, I will not be able to drink it because I'm not a Kohen Gadol or a Kohen in the base of Mikdash, etc. Okay, v'nafal l'tavshil, and a couple of drops of that wine fall inadvertently. You're not adding it on purpose. It just happened to drip into the cooked food. Em yesh bo nosein tam. If the wine objectively alters the flavor, okay, hareze oser, then they're not allowed to eat the food or drink the gravy in that pot. So we have here the word zeh, and we have here the word toem, to taste. So we're going to wonder what's going on and which is significant or okay. Raminahu, first of all, does this Mishnah,
wine can't, as long as it has taste, then wine can't be considered bottled.
correct, but that's not the issue, because we said earlier, if I make a vow, I won't drink wine. I make a global vow. I won't drink wine anymore. My wife could still, or I do the cooking, but we could still put wine in the stew. Or I could make chicken piccata with white wine, because the neder was drinking wine. But here the guy said yayin zeh, and he said toem. He used the specific word zeh, this, or elu, a word like that. And he used the word taste, which we've seen consistently is interpreted as broader than eating or drinking. So that would then come onto the Nosing Tam rule. And the concept of the Nosing Tam rule in Nidorim is exactly the same as the Nosing Tam rule in Beetle. Okay, I mean, they're totally consistent. We use a standard of 1 in 60 for things that are not particularly sharp, because we need a number. But what the better way to do it is to get a non-Jewish expert taster to actually sample the thing and say, yeah, there's wine in here, then you wouldn't be able to
They're
eat
not be an expert taster because they could detect anything. You know, like
it. Shulchan Aruch uses the word a chef.
There you
Okay,
go.
I did not. So that means a certain expertise.
Oh, I see. Yep.
Okay, I apologize for my infelicitous usage. Okay, Raminahu. We're going to take this Mishnah and we're going to compare it to a Brisa, and we're going to have a problem. Min ha'adashim. What if I make a vow? I won't eat lentils. Okay. Asr ba'ashishim. I would be prohibited to eat lentils cooked in an unusual manner. The art scroll calls this fried in honey. Now you can't fry in honey, so I don't know what he means, but I would say he's cooking it in honey until the honey evaporates and the sugar caramelizes on the beans. Okay,
The
Rabbi Yossi
The
Matir.
Rishalmi suggests that it is a kind of cake, by the way.
Okay, like a fruitcake made out of lentils.
Uh-huh.
Okay, like Impossible Burgers. Okay, the Rabbi Yossi Matir, but Rabbi Yossi here permits it. So this is a problem. Rabbi Yossi here is Mekil, and earlier Rabbi Yossi was Machmir. So we have a conflict, okay? Lo kasha, that's not really an issue. Okay, we had this idea once before. Mar ki asrei or mar ki asrei. Again, remember, Nedorim are based on the way people understand what you say. So if you live in a community where normally you spoil lentils, you never cook them in a weird way, people would understand you did not mean to include that in your neder. On the other hand, if you live somewhere where they regularly make lentil honey cake, then people would understand that you meant to include it in your neder. So Rabbi Yossi is not familiar with honeyed lentils, and the Tanakama is. Okay? Now, Karu l'chalova chlova. Most places call milk, milk. And most places, l'koima, koima. Most people refer to whey as whey. Okay. Now remember, Rabbi Yossi was machmir on the way back when. Okay, sorry about that. Obasra the Rabbi Yossi, but where in Rabbi Yossi's locale where he lived, Lakuma nami kori le kuma de chalva. They used to call whey Milky Way. Milky Way. Okay. So shkaya. So again, if you live in a place where whey is called Milk Way, and you were to refer to a neder for milk, then they would naturally include the whey, and that explains why Rabbi Yossi was machmir over there. Okay, Tanya, we have another brisa. A neder min hacholov, you make a neder to prohibit milk products on yourself. Mutter bekum, you are allowed to drink whey. Min hakum, if you make a neder prohibiting whey. Mutter becholov, you are allowed to drink whole milk. Min hacholov, and second neder. Min hacholov, I make a neder, I will not drink milk. Mutter begavina, I'm allowed to eat cheese. Min hagavina mutter lacholov, if I make a neder not to eat cheese, I am still permitted to drink liquid milk. Min haroitef, if I make a vow prohibiting gravy, I don't know why I would do that. Mutter bekipa, you would be allowed to strain the meat particles out of the gravy and eat them. Min hakipa, if you made a vow to not eat the small meat fragments, you'd be able to strain the gravy to get them out and then eat the gravy. Because these vows do not imply the taste, they imply placing the forbidden object in your mouth. That's what you can't do, and it's as narrow as that. Now, im omer basar zeh olai, if you use the word zeh, this meat is like is named to me. Okay, aser bo beroitvoi ubekipoi. That broadens the neder to everything in the pot. We had this before in the Mishnah. So you would not be able to eat the gravy. You would not be able to eat the little meat fragments. And I would postulate you can't eat the carrots and the potatoes either. Okay? Now this rice goes differently a little bit. You prohibit yourself from drinking wine. Mutter betashvil sheyesh bo tam yayin. You would be able to eat food flavored with wine. Okay, a cooked dish flavored with wine. However, Omer koinem yayin zeh she'eni tayin. I bar myself from wine, this wine, and its taste. Okay, the nuffle was somebody say something? Okay, and the nuffle and a little wine drips into the stew. Im yeshlo tam yayin, if you can. A non-nettered person could taste the stew and say, yeah, it's got a wine flavor. So then the netter maker would not be able to enjoy that stew. Okay, now, we had the notion earlier, we introduced the notion of the whey as a component of the milk. And depending on the wording of the netter would not be excluded. Or let me rephrase that. If I prohibit milk on myself, I do not necessarily prohibit whey. So analogous situation. Okay. I make a vow I will not eat grapes. Mutter b'yayin. Then the grape juice is permitted. Okay, they use the word yayin, but it could also be just grape juice. The exudate from the grapes is not forbidden. Min hazesim, similarly, if I say I will never eat olives again, bli neder, okay, mutter b'shemen, you would be able to utilize olive oil. However,
Wine and grape juice.
halachically are the same with only one area of difference. Okay, I mean, if you're interested. If you're at a kiddush and Schwartz makes kiddush for the oilam, according to one shita, if he uses actual wine, nobody has to make a shahakol on the schnapps because the borei priyagofen covers every beverage at the affair. If he uses grape juice, there is a shita that other people should make a shahakol. We're no heg not to because we don't want to be over bracha sheina tzricha, but there is that shita that there is that difference. And also on Pesach, the halacha is you're supposed to use fermented grape juice, wine, even if it makes you sick. Well, we had the Gemara 2 days ago that he said, I drink 4 cups of wine at the Seder and I'm sick until Shavuos. And nevertheless, he did so. I mean, if that's a real issue for you, we could talk about there were ways of diluting the wine, of adding wine to grape juice. Yeah. Go ahead.
If what you were explaining to me, if the one making kiddush,
It's preferable to use wine.
but if the one making kiddush,
Right.
make kiddush on grape juice, those drinking wine.
No. I said there is a shita that you're not yaitse for other beverages. If I make a borei pregafen on kedem grape juice, and then you drink Cabernet Sauvignon, you would not have to make another bracha if you had in mind that I should be motzi. Okay, it doesn't matter, but only when it comes to drinking Pepsi or drinking lemonade or drinking schnapps. There is a shita that the person who makes kiddush should use wine. Again, in halacha l'maisa, we allow that person to use grape juice, and no, you do not make a bracha on your other beverage. Most people mess this up at a kiddush because everybody hears the guy make kiddush and then makes the bari, shahakol ni'ebara, and then drinks the schnapps. You're not supposed to do that. Okay.
Why would you say it's a bracha?
It's not a bracha levatala, it's a bracha sheina tzricha. It's not as bad as a bracha levatala. If you made the shahakol and then poured out the schnapps, that would be a bracha levatala. Okay? All right. So, Asher, now, what a new rule. Omer, the guy says, Kainem zeisim v'anavim elu sha'eni tayin. I will have this wine, these grapes and these olives. I will, these he uses, and I will not taste. Okay, now, Asher behem, v'yaitze behem. Now, the grapes or the olives are forbidden, and anything that comes out from them, meaning the grape juice or the wine or the olive oil, is now also usher. So if you go back and you look at the wording, it adds the word elu, and it also adds the word toe. Okay, which is the critical term that expands the neder to include the exudate of the olives or the grapes.
Is that if it's only at no same time or just
No. Now we're not talking about no same time anymore. We said, if I say I won't eat grapes, that's all I say. I make a neder, I won't eat grapes. Grapes are kind to me. I can drink wine. But if I make a neder, these grapes, anavin elu, she'eni toen, I will not taste. I broadened the neder to include grape jelly, to include wine, to include any grape product, grape derivative.
all right? All right, so you have to be able to identify the actual derivative.
Well, Mastama, of course. I mean, we know. We were not. It's not the modern world where they have these ultra processed foods that turn out to have grape seeds in them. In those days, you knew this is a grape related product. And you could read the label carefully or call the OU hotline and find out if you made such a vow, if you can eat that thing. But I'm not coming to you for Shabbos because I don't want to hear Kiddush on bread. All right.
What I was talking about is if someone cooks a food in olive oil and it's not, there's no way of telling that he cooked it in olive oil.
You would have to ask.
Yeah.
If you got fried food, if I have a neder, I'm not eating olives, or I made the neder properly, so I'm not eating olive oil, and I come to you for latkes on Sunday night at 7:00, I would have to say to you, what kind of oil did your wife use to cook the latkes? And you would say, I haven't any idea. Go ask her. And then she would say, I used extra virgin olive oil. And I would say to my wife, let's go home.
Tell me if you made a neder though.
What?
Of course.
Obviously, I'm saying in the case of a person making a neder, that's the topic of this Gemara on the Doran. All right, weiter. Boy Rami Bacham. So Rabbi Marchama asks a bomb question. Elu dafka? Was it the word elu in that neder that expanded it to the derivative products? O she'enu tayem dafka? Or is it the she'enu tayem that is the operative phrase that causes the neder to expand to any olive or derivative or grape derivative? Okay, that's his question. So if you decide, want to come to the conclusion, elu dafka, it's the elu that's the critical phrase. She'ena toim lamali. If the first of the two, the elu, is the determinant phrase that makes the neder broader, why do you have to add that I won't taste? Okay, so that knocks that out. If you, or to broaden the question, if you only need one, why do you say both? Oh, Kamash Milan. So here's what the Mishnah may be trying to teach us. The afal gav the omer she'enu tayem. Even though I kept on speaking and added the words regarding my tasting, Ida Amar Elu. If I had only used the word Elu and did not use the word Toyem, Mitzvah, I would still be broadening the neder to include the oil or the juice. Okay? The Elo, but if I leave out the word Elu, then the neder would not be expanded. Okay, so that's thrown out there as a havamina. Rava tries to answer the question Rami Bachama posed. Taishma, let's look at another Mishnah. Kainem Perus ha'elu olai. I make a neder, I won't eat these fruits. Okay? Or I make a neder koinem hem lefi. We had all this earlier. These fruits will never enter my mouth. Aser b'chalifuhen o b'gedulahe. Then, if I make this neder on a basket of apples, if I can't trade an apple for Ruvain's banana and eat the banana, okay, and I can't take the seeds out of the apple and grow an apple tree and wait 4 years till I can eat the apples, and I wouldn't be able to eat that apple either because the neder covered anything swapped out for the apple or anything that's further derived from the apple. Okay, so mehem mutter. So the fact that Mishnah said swapping it out or deriving new from it, it did not say, but I can't crush those apples and make apple juice. The implication is I could crush those apples and make apple juice. Okay, mehem mutter. The exudate would be permitted. Okay, and I did not use the word that I did use the word elu. Okay, but I did not use the word chain and tie. Ho hadin, that's the rule. The afilu b'yetze mehen asur. Even in a case, had you said that the apple juice would also be asur, the same rule would apply.
If you just said Ela.
If you threw in the Ela.
Right.
Ha adifale to ashmuina. So why didn't the Tana? In other words, you could argue either way. you could say that the Elu did exclude drinking apple juice or did not. So if that's problematic, why didn't that Mishnah clarify it? That Mishnah was going so far as to clarify, couldn't wait 20 years and eat a new apple. Why didn't it clarify this issue? He wanted to talk about the more reasonable possibilities of swapping the apple for the banana or growing new apples from the apple, and that was in the ratio over there. So I tell you, so therefore, he did that. He would assume that the apple juice, if I can't eat a new apple from a new apple tree, I certainly shouldn't be able to eat the apple juice. He didn't think he needed to say it. Taishma, let's look at another Mishnah. She'enu oichel she'enu tayem. If I make a vow using the phrase, I will not eat, I will not have taste, mutter v'chilufeihen ubigidulehen. Then, in other words, I will not eat these apples and I won't taste them. Then I could swap it for the banana. Or I could pull the seeds out and plant them and sooner or later have another apple tree and eat the apples. Because I was only talking about these apples in this basket. Okay? But in that case, even though I could swap it for the banana, that Mishnah assumes that the apple juice is usher. Okay, so therefore, the word taste is the operative word because apple juice has an apple taste. So we're beginning to resolve the question if it's the elu or the time, that's the key word. Edi delo nasiv bereisha yetze man. In fact, the Resha of the Mishnah, where it talks about the trading, doesn't go into the oozing or the pressing. So lo nosiv nami b'seifa yesei mehen. So therefore, for linguistic consistency, the latter part of the Mishnah also doesn't mention pressing or oozing, and therefore it's not determinative one way or the other. Okay? So, but we still need an answer to the question. Tashma, let's try again. Amar Reb Yehuda, Meiser v'Eiser Rebbe Tarfon Alai Beyim Shenis Bashlu Imoi. In the case of the person who says, this pot of meat I won't eat. I like pot of meat I won't eat. That was good. All right, this pot of meat I won't eat. And you cook some eggs in the pot. Reb Tarfon says, nisht on the eggs as well. Amar Lo, they challenged Reb Yehuda's statement. Amasai, when do we make rule? When did Reb Tarfon rule that way? Bismancha Omer Basar Ze'olai. The phrasing of the netter was this meat on me. Shenayder min hadaver nis arev biacher, which comes to include anything else mixed in with that meat in the same pot. V'yesh bo b'nai same time, and the forbidden food in some way enhances or flavors the other food. That's when the other food is usher. So when you make the specificity, the elu or the zeh, that is the operative word. Ke'elu lo kama boilon, the dafka hu. So when it comes to the elu word or the zeh word, clearly That's a determinative word that broadens the neder. Okay? Ki maboilan. So what question should we be asking? What function does the about taste bring to the neder? Okay, is that dafka or lav dafka? Is that change the meaning of the neder or doesn't it? Tashma, let's try and answer. Dog in the enu. We had 2 mishnahs ago. Fishies regarding eating, tasting. Aser behen ben gedalim ben katanim doesn't matter if it's a tuna or it's an anchovy. Ben chayim, ben mevusholim doesn't matter if it's sushi or it's roasted sea bass. Okay, however, mutter b'taris tarufa ubatzir. Nevertheless, you could eat chopped fish, taris. You could eat the brine that you made the pickled herring in, and you could even eat the liquid that oozed out of a fish before it was cooked or processed in any way, except cut open. Okay, so now we have a new problem. We have the problem, if I make a time neder, I can't eat the exudate, and yet that Mishnah said clearly that I could. So I can understand the fish brine, the herring sauce. The sauce flavors the herring doesn't flavor the sauce. But what about the goop that comes out of the fish? That's clearly part of the fish. So the Gemara explains, Amarava over Kvar Yatzim. We went fishing. We have a bucket with fish in it, that are busy dying and oozing because we cut them open. And I say, I'm making neder, I'm not going to eat any of these fish. And you say, great, I got all the fish for me. And you take them out of the bucket and there's this ooze in there. And I'm thirsty, so I can drink the ooze. Because the ooze was there before the neder. But if I made the neder before we went fishing, aside from the fact that then I couldn't go fishing, because you're not allowed to go fishing unless you're going to eat the fish. But putting that little matter aside, I would not be able to eat the exudate because I made the neder while the exudate was still part of the fish. And just to remind you that fish blood is not blood. So you got no problem drinking fish booze. Okay, shkoyach, have a good Erev Shabbos, everybody. I am not, Kenny will have had arranged somebody to do the shear tomorrow, or he'll come in a wheelchair. So there will be a shear tomorrow. And with regard to Sunday, it will be me or Kenny, depending on what he tells me when he calls. Okay, have a good Erev Shabbos.
Thank you, Michael. Good Shabbos to everybody.
That's, I think,
Erwin.
Erwin. So anybody want to join me in fish ooze?
Thank you very much.
No, not unless it's flavored with vodka.
Oh, vodka. Oh, that's a new cocktail?
What we're gonna call
Aha.
it. Something fishy.
It's like a,
I like that.
what?
Yeah, take the vinegar from the.
I use the vinegar from pickles, the brine from pickles all the time in cooking.
Alcoholic.
What? Oh, you're not allowed to
Throw the whole
touch
thing.
fish. You're not going to eat it. No, you can't do that.
No, what if you catch these are fish? Fish shrimp.
If there's a law, no, if there's a law that this fish is too small, you have to throw it back. But to go fishing recreationally rather than for acquiring food is us. That's our balei. You're harming an animal for your fun. That's us.
I know, I'm not sure, I just have gone
But
fishing.
you don't have to be
No,
sure.
I'm gone fishing with some pretty, from educated.
People do what they
Rabbi, rabbinic.
people do what they do. You know, the Gemara frequently says, go out and see how people behave. That'll determine the halacha. We don't do that anymore. Because people, number one, not everybody knows the rules. Other people, well, it's only, you know, yeah, people go to the shows in the clubhouse too, where there are women singing and people not dressed properly.
We go to schools where people sit next to each other and talk too.
Yeah, I mean, what I'm saying is, the etzem halacha, there's a concept, tzar balei. If an animal is benefiting a human, then, and the discomfort to the animal is incidental to the benefit. Like the donkey is carrying your burden. Now, obviously, the donkey would rather not have the packages on it, but he's benefiting you. You can do that, but you can't stand there and kick the donkey. Similarly, with fishing or hunting, use snaring. Hunting is a problem, but you know, if you're going to eat the animal, then you're allowed to catch it.
If you, this is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Okay. If you see,
I didn't know this. My son
what's, I guess a cow.
Right.
It's kind of big thing. Run after it and grab it.
Grab what?
And the cow.
If you go and grab the cow, well, how are you hurting the cow? I mean, I don't understand the question.
It's a hidden fish.
Oh.
Okay. And you check this.
Right.
Eat it.
Right.
If you grab the cow and say, "Oh, I'm not going to eat this one,"
That's
I
fine.
can let it go.
That's fine.
Well,
That was,
that's like fishing.
no, it's not,
Why not?
because you weren't planning to catch a fish. I mean, you went fishing, you weren't planning to eat it. Picking this cow over that cow, and you have to look at both cows. That's part of the deciding on which cow to kill.
I would think someplace amongst our
No,
rabbis,
we have
there
a
was
case.
somebody could say, that's a similar situation.
No, we have a
Fishing is-
case like that.
Fishing is similar to running. The only thing
No,
it's not- the only thing it's not so about it
No,
is you can't
people-
let around and try to catch a cow. and hold it to
People
the side.
go fishing knowing that this is a catch, like the lake over here. The rule of the Century Village West is catch and release. So you're not allowed to go fishing there if you're Jewish and if you follow the rules.
But if you go in fishing,
that's what happened to my.
as they have with a couple,
He was
who I think have studied this as well.
And
And their idea, not their idea is, to run overnight for a couple nights. The idea is for lunch today. Guys, if we have lunch.
No, then you're allowed to go fishing.
But some number of fish are thrown back.
If you've finished, all right, again, if there is a rule, the fish has to be 19 inches long.
Yeah.
And you catch a 6-inch long fish, you put it back. If otherwise, we need 8 fish for lunch. So up till the 8th fish, it's mutter, the 9th fish is usher. It's as simple as that.
No, I don't think, well, maybe it does all fit. Because I don't think at the end of the day, we threw out 10 dead fish.
All right,
The fish
I don't know
the
what
fish-
you did in
the fish
that.
we- No, the fish I'm trying to understand. The fish we brought back,
Erwin, here's, don't forget.
because the fish we brought back, we ate.
All right, I mean, you know, it's just like there are
I would
people.
probably get something else.
No, I mean, I have a friend, a very from guy who goes fishing for marlin, which is a sport fish. They don't eat them, and they mount them on their wall. So I actually heard a rabbi say, well, mounting it on the wall is a valid use. And then the rabbi sitting next to him said, you're nuts. So, I mean, there are grounds to debate specific issues, but causing pain to a critter for no reason other than you're having fun